Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Hello, everyone. I hope this finds you well and secure. Chapter 4 is a brief one, but very much to the point. We've been watching, listening, reading, conversing, that Mahamadi's been struggling with trying to get past his physical reality, words, proposition for enlightenment as a state of experience, a state of mind, not a state of body. So now, Shakyamuni is going to, in the words of some of my early teachers, he's going to lay it down. So let's just get into it and you'll see what I mean. Of course, we begin by Mahamadi asking a question, the question, albeit with a slightly more informed perspective, yeah? At that time, Mahamadi, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to the emancipated one, "Please tell me about the state of perfect tranquilization, or Nirodha, and its further development as attained by the Bodhisattvas, Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, for when this further development is thoroughly understood by myself and the rest of your student body, all may be liberated from being confounded by the happiness which comes from the attainment of perfect tranquilization, and also from falling into the confused state of mind of the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and philosophers." So, please describe for me, as I have gotten emails over the years, what's Buddhahood? And the question obviously implies that how is Buddhahood actually attaining liberation different from happiness as a state of being in the physical attached? Look at all my toys, look at all my stuff. How important, how amazing am I? Look at all the words I know. As opposed to an experience that is still of this world and still with all the stuff, but not identifying with it, not attached to it, not mollified or somehow experienced as a product of. See, the words fail here because what we're trying to identify as enlightenment is a state of being, energy, informations without the baggage. Just the experience of now with everything. But identification is the best word I can come up with. The self, unidentified, isn't really a self. It's a moment-by-moment experience of life through a particular observer. Or not observer so much as just a witness, an eyeball, a mental cognition of, a perception, an experience moment to moment. Words to just, that's why I guess we call it Buddha-ness, yeah? Because we had to make up a word for what this state of mind is, this experience of life is, when it is not constructed of all of the other stuff, including this stuff, yeah? What's that like? So Mahamadi, he's on the right track. He's just, right? So Shakyamuni responds, those bodhisattva mahasattvas who have reached the 6th stage, now there's going to be a lot about stages of bodhisattva here. And this is in reference to earlier teachings. And if you want to go down that rabbit hole and study the various stages of bodhisattva-ness, I welcome you to do so. It's outside the scope of this study of the Lankavatara, though, although he's going to make quite a lot of references to it. But I think in general, if you just sort of go with what he's saying, you'll see how he's identifying this mental shift that the student of Buddhism, the student of Shakyamuni's lectures, his sermons, his expedient means, they reach different levels of understanding or aha moments. Their insights lead them into first negotiating their own relationship with reality. But it's a far different thing when your relationship with reality becomes unattached, because what we tend to think of as reality is the baggage, the stuff. But what Buddha continuously talks about is that reality isn't in the stuff, because that's already gone. That's the past. Reality is a concurrently experiencing moment-to-moment manifestation. Turn your gaze to what's happening right now. Sure, all the stuff is there, but it's only there temporarily, provisionally. Don't get sucked into that, because that's where you start to find your place amongst it. And that's the self problem, the ego problem. Raise your mind to look at the entirety of the moment-to-moment process, and now you're in a place mentally that isn't identified, but completely in the flow of the identified, not the self-identified. Witness and participant in the process. Again, I'm doing the best with words that I have, yeah? So, let's hear how he discusses the paradigms of the student, because he's talking to a student. He's talking to Mahamadi, and he's trying to get Mahamadi to look at his own history of insights in his study and see how he needs to break free of earlier understandings, which, as you become more insightful, you see your own previous insights as lacking, as not quite there, as actual hurdles to your progression, to finally getting to here, this moment, yes? So here we go. I'll let you figure it out. Those bodhisattvas who've reached the 6th stage, as well as the Shravakas and Pratyekabuddhas, attain perfect tranquilization. Here's the problem with words again. They've achieved perfect tranquilization in a form that they perceive as attainment, but it's not Buddha-ness. They're achieving insights. They're achieving calm samadhis and meditations, but they're just steps on the way. They're not, the verbiage of Shakyamuni would be, they're not perfect, complete. We hear that in the Lotus Sutra, right? And prior. They're not complete and immediate enlightenment. They're just stages of aha moments and understanding on their way. So these Shravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, they reach perfect tranquilization. At the seventh stage, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, giving up the view of self-nature as subsisting in all things, attained perfect tranquilization in every minute of their mental lives, which is not, however, the case with the Shravakas and Pratyekabuddhas. So do you remember Nichiren saying at one point that he was now living his life, in his estimation, in Myoho Renge Kyo every moment of the day? This is the kind of thing he was referencing. For with them there is something effect-producing, and in their attainment of perfect tranquilization, there is a trace of dualism. This is the Bodhisattva. Of grasped and grasping. Therefore, they do not attain perfect tranquilization in every minute of their mental lives, which is possible at the seventh stage. So he's delineating this major step in the process of bodhisattvahood, yeah? They cannot attain to the clear conviction of an undifferentiated state of all things and the cessation of all the multiplicities. Or as he said it in earlier teachings, the cessation of formation. He made this clear in the Four Noble Truths. He's always been talking about this, but the level of understanding hasn't been there. Their attainment is due to the understanding the aspect of all things in which their self-nature is discriminated as good and not good. See, that's still the mind of dualism. That's still an identification. It's a lesser so attached, but it's still right in it, in the rapids, in the warehouse. Therefore, until the seventh stage, there is not a well-established attainment of tranquilization in every minute of their mental lives. Do you carry your insight with you, or are they just momentary insights that you have to re-experience all the time? Right? Kind of like grabbing fresh air as you're tumbling through the rapids, right? Mahamati, at the eighth stage of the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Shravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, cease cherishing discriminative ideas that arise from the Sita, Mana, and Mano-Vijnana. The very fundament of consciousnesses, the lower consciousnesses, that continue to want to occupy, the monkeys, occupy your attention, and therefore attachment, right? The ideas that rise from have, not have, moving, not moving, the duality at its very fundamental core, still there. At the eighth stage, you begin to distance yourself from that impetus to identify. Okay? From the first stage up to the sixth, they perceive the triple world as no more than the Sita, Manas, and Mano-Vijnana, that as it is born of a discriminating mind, there is no ego soul and what belongs to it, and that there is no falling into the multitudinousness of external objects except through the discrimination of the mind itself. Do you see this mental shift, removal, you could say? Not annihilation removal, but removal of the attention, the constant nurturing of stuff, into a more immediate, ongoing, contemporaneous existing. The ignorant turning their self-knowledge towards the dualism of grasped and grasping fail to understand, for there is the working of habit energy, which has been accumulating since beginningless time, owing to a false reasoning and discrimination. So the habit energy, this is a profound thought, and it's not immediately clear, but what Shakyamuni is referencing is the very creation of the universe itself, not just the you and I, the human, the sentient mind, but this accumulating energy in formations that amalgamates over time to spawn, to manifest all manner of potential from this quiescent energy, yeah? Work, action, cause, right? Mahamadi, at the 8th stage, there is nirvana for the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but the Bodhisattvas are kept away by the power of all the Buddhas from being intoxicated by the bliss of samadhi, and thereby they will not enter into nirvana. So now this becomes, and I apologize, but this light keeps turning for some reason. See if it stays put now. Time and space. So this is interesting. This is where it might be helpful to understand the nirvana of remainder and the nirvana of non-remainder. There are different definitions of nirvana. So there is this complete liberation from the attachment of the material world, not a denial of the material world, but the involvement of identifying an identity in relation to stuff, right? The physical world. Excuse me. And once you attain that Buddha-ness, you don't want to leave it. It's so amazing. It's so powerful. But the problem with, if it's a problem, that attainment is that it doesn't provide for complete, perfect enlightenment, which by definition, Shakyamuni points out, is that the tremendous compassion that one achieves from attaining that Buddha-ness necessitates communicating it and facilitating it in all other sentient minds. And only by doing that samsaric activity of raising other spiritual minds, other spiritual, that slippery word, the mind, the sentient mind. Wow, where did that word go? All right, raising other sentient minds to Buddha-ness is the bodhisattva effort, right? Because part of Buddha-ness and the holistic vision, understanding, experience of life writ large includes, not precludes, not excludes everything else, certainly every other sentient mind. So the highest privilege of Buddha-ness is to be in this samsaric life in order to propagate this experience. So full nirvana would mean a complete disconnection from the material world. And that, by reason of enlightenment itself, read the Buddhas, is kept just out of experience in order to plant that experience of Buddha-ness in this samsaric life so that it can grow beyond, another step further, beyond self, which, yes, the self becomes enlightened, but the enlightenment is not complete because the self's still there. And as the self grows to encompass others moving on this same path, then enlightenment grows manifold times, yes? Becomes really complete. That is the greatest opportunity of this lifetime. Not just to awaken oneself, but in that awakening, awaken others, inspire others. This leads to an enlightenment far greater than the notion of self. You see? So nirvana, yes, but nirvana is one word, but it has many, not meanings, but levels of meaning, 8 levels of experience. Yes? All right. Bodhisattvas are kept away by the power of all the Buddhas from being intoxicated, and that's an indication of selfness right there, yeah? By the bliss of samadhi, and thereby will not enter into nirvana. When the stage of tathagatahood is not fulfilled, there would be the cessation of all doings, and if the bodhisattvas were not supported by the Buddhas, the Tathagata family would become extinct. Yeah, if ultimately, like the nihilistic point of view, that we all attain our own bliss, then it wouldn't be too long before there would be no guide, no opportunity for the rest of us poor schlubs to even know what to look for beyond our collections of stuff, yeah? Our identities being physical, as it were. Therefore, the Buddhas, blessed or emancipated ones, point out the virtues of Buddhahood, which are beyond conception. Therefore, the Bodhisattva does not enter into nirvana, but the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, engrossed in the bliss of the samadhis, therein cherish the thought of nirvana. So there's the carrot. You too can experience this incredible liberation and full experience of life while in samsara. At the 7th stage, Mahamadi, the Bodhisattva properly examines into the nature of the citas, manas, and manovijnana. He examines into such subjects as the ego soul and how that's an illusion, and what belongs to it. That's what manifests it, right? It's a self-gratifying illusion. Grasped and grasping, the egolessness of persons and things, rising and disappearing, individuality and generality. He skillfully ascertains the fourfold logical analysis. He enjoys the bliss of self-mastery, still self, but the mastery being of taking control of the monkey mind and leading the mind to greater realizations, yeah? He enters successively upon the stages. He knows the differences obtaining in the various elements of enlightenment. The grading of the stages is arranged by me, lest the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, not knowing what is meant by individuality and generality and failing to understand the continuous development of the successive stages, should fall into the philosopher's wrong view of viewing things. Without guidance, all those aha moments, those insights, can easily lead. Does my face just seem... I'm totally preoccupied with this lighting now. It's really driving me nuts. It seems too bright. I think the light, yeah, that's better. I think it's just the light changing outside just changes the light in here. I'm becoming a lighting engineer to my great frustration. All right, sorry. But, Mahamadi, there is really nothing rising, nothing disappearing. All is nothing except what is seen of the mind itself. That's not to say that nothing exists. You understand, again, this is a mental cognition of things in process. Time, space, we're all hurtling through it, making it as we go, quite literally. Right? The idea of a permanent static object is an illusion of samsara to create, to build the notion of a self. That is the continuous development of the successive stages in all the multiple doings of the triple world. They are all of mind itself. Past, present, future. That's just an idea in the mind developed from identification, permanentification, thingifying the process of energy and manifestations moment to moment. It's not that it's not happening, it's that we adhere to it. This is not understood by the ignorant. They don't even know to look. I and all the Buddhas establish the doctrine of the stages which develop successively, as do all the doings of the triple world. So the teaching is put in a form, the discursive form of past, present, future, because that's the samsaric experience of life. And it takes a long time to slowly unglue yourself from that notion of being. Further, Mahamadi, the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas at the 8th stage of bodhisattvahood are so intoxicated with the happiness that comes from the attainment of perfect tranquilization and failing to understand fully that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of the mind itself, they are thus unable to overcome the hindrances and habit energy growing out of their notions of generality and individuality. And adhering to the egolessness of persons and things and cherishing views arising therefrom, they have the discriminating idea and knowledge of nirvana, which is not that of the truth of absolute liberation. Mahamadi, when the bodhisattva face and perceive the happiness of samadhi of perfect tranquilization, they are moved with the feeling of love and sympathy owing to their original vows, and they become aware of the part they are to perform as regards the 10 inexhaustible vows. And this is what I was saying earlier, is that when your awakening gets to a stage of not just, I'm awakening, I'm awakening, I'm awakening, wow, look what I see, look what the world is like for me, at some point you start to let go of that discrimination, identification, and you start to understand enlightenment as not something you attain so much as you re-experience every moment of your life as being within the larger context of all life, not just a me, me, me life. And that's where this tremendous compassion and overwhelming feeling, sensation, desire to share, to inculcate, to facilitate for others, because they're all life as well. The self begins to undiscriminate, right? And spread as a much larger experience of life. Maybe visually we can, but that's hard. Words aren't designed to do that. Words are designed to identify. So how do you identify something that's identification itself disassembling, not annihilating, but really growing like a field, an energetic field, yeah? Inclusive, rather than discriminating. Right? This is what he's talking about here. Thus, they do not enter nirvana. They don't want to leave this process. They just want to disconnect from the tendrils, the attachments, yeah? But the fact is that they are already in nirvana, because in them there is no rising of discrimination. With them, the discrimination of grasped and grasping no more takes place, as they now recognize that there is nothing in the world but what is seen of the mind itself, experience. They have done away with the thought of discrimination concerning all things. They have abandoned adhering to and discriminating about such notions as the mind, manas, manovijnanas, and external objects and self-nature. It's all irrelevant now. Look at this continuous process. Be in it. However, they have not given up things promoting the cause of Buddhism. And that is the Bodhisattva facilitator, bringer of this, not only the attainment, the awakening, the necessity for the awakening, the value of the awakening, the method and methods of learning that this is an inherent, ongoing thing, and there are ways to retrain the mind of samsara to perceive what is already happening. You're just missing it. Why are you looking in your hands and at your pockets? Look at the great, amazing fireworks show. You're missing it. See? Because of their attainment of the inner insight, which belongs to the stage of Tathagatahood, whatever they do, all issues from their transcendental knowledge. Then every act that you take in samsara, every word, every effort that you make, is fed by, informed by your prajna, your touching Buddha-ness, your awareness. Yes? This is what we do when we chant. We cultivate that awareness, and we maintain it as well as we can throughout our samsaric day. It is like a man crossing a stream in a dream. For instance, Mahamati, suppose that while sleeping, a man dreams that he is in the midst of a great river, which he earnestly endeavors with all his might to cross by himself. But before he succeeds in crossing the stream, he is awakened from the dream, and being awakened, he thinks, is this real or unreal? Is the dream real? Or am I dreaming the dream? Or is this really how life is? He thinks again, no, it is neither real nor unreal. It's a mentation, yeah? By reason of the habit energy of discrimination, which has been accumulated by experience ever since beginningless time, as multiplicities of forms and conditions are seen, heard, thought, and recognized, there is the perception and discrimination of all things as existent and non-existent, that duality. And for this reason, my manovijnana experiences, even in a dream, all that has been seen by myself. So he's using the example of a dream as being no different than a waking state in samsara. There are tribes in the world, as well documented, that believe in their dream life is just as real as their, quote, real life, yeah? So the same kind of illusion is being made by Shakyamuni here to, again, try to distance yourself from this profound adherence to stuff and see it as just as ephemeral. What does ephemeral mean? Of the mind. In the same way, Mahamadi, the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas of the 8th stage of Bodhisattvahood, after passing through the first up to the 7th stage, observe that there is no more rising in them of discrimination, since all things have been seen like Maya, like a dream. When they have intuitive understanding of the true nature of all things, and further observing that therefore there is the cessation of all things as to be grasped and grasping, which rise from one's ardent desire for things, and also observing how the mind and what belongs to it carry on their discriminations, ego, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva never relax their efforts to practice the teachings of the Buddhas, constantly reaffirming Buddha-ness, yes? Mahamadi, they will exercise themselves to make those who have not yet attained the truth attain it. They have to. Because to not attain it is to be mired in all of the things that cause stress, anxiety, quote, suffering. So it's not a kind of deified saving of people. It's a sharing of an insight that is incredible. Of course you want other peoples to get that insight. It's not about saving them. It's about showing them something they already have and they're missing it. Follow? For the Bodhisattva, nirvana does not mean extinction, as they have abandoned thoughts of discrimination evolving from the Sita, Manas, and Manovajnana. The thought of this extinction is another duality. Is, not is. So yeah, no, you're missing it. There is for them the attainment of the recognition that all things are unborn. It's an ongoing manifestation. It's not a thing and then something else. It's just happening. And Mahamadi, in ultimate reality, there is neither gradation nor continuous succession. The thing is now the thing is now the thing is now the thing, because everything is constantly in flux. It's an ongoing manifestation of potential, a suchness. Only the truth of absolute, it says solitude, but I don't think that's the right word, this self-knowing, for lack of better words, is taught here, in which the discrimination of all the images is quieted. And so he ends this chapter with the following verses. The abodes of the state and the stages of Buddhahood are established in the mind only, which is imageless. This was told, is told, and will be told by the Buddhas. So there's past, present, future, using past, present, and future to indicate that this is a permanent observation, permanent in the sense that as long as there's sentient minds, this is the condition of reality. The abodes, okay. The first 7 stages are still of the mind. But here, the 8th is imageless. The 2 stages, the 9th and the 10th, because there's 10 stages, have still something to rest themselves on. The highest stage that is left belongs to me. A complete disconnection. Like when Shakyamuni spoke the Nirvana Sutra, he was on the way out. He was on his deathbed waiting to extinguish. And when he extinguished, there was no sentient mind, no Buddhahood. He was just part of the process of the universe. That is the nirvana of no remainder. Follow? Self-realization and absolute purity, this stage, is my own. It is the highest station of Mahasvara, the Akanishta, heaven, shining brilliantly. Not another place. And unfortunately, the words tend to lean toward that understanding, but that's not correct. It's simply, again, it's about that carrot. Complete resolution of one's lifetime. Lived fully. Now, only energy. No discrimination. No manifestation. Just part of the potential. Its rays of light move forward like a mass of fire. They who are bright-colored, charming, and auspicious transform the triple world. So now he's speaking of the energy of formations, the entirety of the process of the universe, which we all are manifestations of, and our emergent sentient mind witness to for a brief period, and to which we return. Just energy. Undefined, undifferentiated, undiscriminated, non-mental. Not another place, another form of formlessness, right? From formlessness comes form, returns to formlessness. And if you want to call it a carrot for all future and other minds to attain, that's the full picture, yeah? Some worlds are being transformed while others have already been transformed. There I preach the various vehicles which belong to my own stage. And this, again, is what he identifies in the lifespan of the Tathagata chapter, although they don't really get it here, Suzuki included, that Buddha is another word for quiescent energy. And that Buddha-ness is our samsaric experience of, knowledge of, that state of formations. That intermediary from quiescence to form, we can witness, we can watch it happening in our midst with consciousnesses, with the mind. That's the sole opportunity of this lifetime, and it only exists here. Otherwise, we don't need a name for it. We? Okay. But from the absolute point of view, the 10th is the first, and the first is the 8th, and the 9th is the 7th, and the 7th is the 8th, and the 2nd is the 3rd, and the 4th is the 5th, and the 3rd is the 6th. What gradation is there where imageless prevails? So once you get to this point, again, as I was just saying, preempting that, what use conventions of identification or naming, or it's irrelevant. That's all part of this illusion of samsara, of dualistic discriminations, yeah? And that's it. Now we move on to chapter 5. And luckily for you and I, being students of the Lotus Sutra, we see what he's talking about. For the time of the Lankavatara, his students still struggling, trying to get this. How do I do this? Not unlike ourselves, right? As we continue to study Buddhism, as we continue to chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we know something's going on. We feel it intrinsically. It's part of what we are, what we're from, what we're going to. But damned if we're not always stalled by the involvement, the adherence, the entanglements of maintaining things instead of just seeing everything as transient. When everything is transient, there's a lot less pressure to have to manage it. I'm not saying be irresponsible, there's your enlightenment. That's not at all what I'm saying, although it might sound like it. What we're managing is our minds. And if from that perspective of Buddha-ness, we apply that understanding, that compassion for things as they are in samsara, our decision-making becomes far easier, doesn't it? It becomes less about what I want and more about what is best. What is best to raise my child? What is best for me to be more effective in society? What is best to produce longing for Buddhahood? You see? If that is the litmus test, if you will, of every decision you make, your life will grow immeasurably. And your environment will reflect it, because it is you. That's another tough pill to swallow, often because it's not described this way. We're very, very close all the time of feeling somehow a victim to, subservient to what is going on around us. But remember, always remember that what is going on around you is a reflection. Life is not happening to you. It's happening amidst you, for you, an opportunity for you to see what tendencies and conditions are roiling in your formations of energy. How do I turn these into nurturing, positive, life-affirming energies, processes? That is the challenge of the practice, isn't it? This is something that I have not found another philosophy, or certainly religion, that is based on this kind of thinking. They may have allusions to it, the philosophers, in different wonderful words and sayings, but what they're based on is always some kind of negation of this very life, of this samsaric experience, as though if we could just escape it, we could be happy. That is the greatest tragedy of human thought. It's been around for thousands of years, so, who said it? I don't know who said it first, but identifying our species, early humans, as being different. Chloe's still with us. You gonna be okay, sweetie? Poor little dog. Watching the sun fall over the edge of the earth and wondering, with all the dangers of night, with the predators all around, if we would ever see that sun again. Certainly we would be delivered by the great auspicious whatever outside of our control to bring that sun back. Oh, please, please, please. You can see where the mentation of early minds had this magical thinking. So yeah, it's been around for a long time. Buddha was quite a revolutionary. And a lot of people didn't like him for that, because it empowers us. You are in control. What? Right. That's not in line with all of the mysticism. This is why I say Buddhism is not a religion. It's not mysticism. It's not magical. It's very, very profound observation of experience. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing it with me. That inspires me in my Daimoku and this channel, this Sangha. Help it grow, like, and please subscribe so that YouTube will deliver this Sangha in more results so we can grow and help to liberate others in the practice of Lotus Sutra Buddhism. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next one. That's assuredly my goal. Bye for now.